am so excited to have a fellow Tennessee Titan wife with me today. She's one of the first wives I actually met when I say I moved there. Actually, my husband got traded to the Titans. She's a badass. I would describe her by this. She is an entrepreneur, businesswoman by day, and one of those cute, I say cute, but very successful, witty, brainy teachers by afternoon, which is a interesting combo, but she makes it all work. Please welcome my friend, Dani Landry. Welcome, friends.
Dani, so year 7, which like you said is crazy, feels like year 1 or 2. Like you guys were drafted by the Titans, right?
Yeah, it was just amazing. I mean, I'm so grateful that we've been able to stay in the same place because our community is so strong here that I really can't imagine going elsewhere.
No, you've been lucky. Tennessee's a great place because let's be honest, there's some teams and places around the league where I'd be like, oh, but I say that, and we got signed by the Jets, and it was like prime time Jersey Shore, and so like I'm thinking Snooki is going to be my next door neighbor, and so I remember getting there, and it totally blew my mind, and it actually holds one of the like fondest memories ever living in Jersey. But you just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm meant to be in the South. Like I'm from the North. But now being here, I know I'm like meant to live in the South.
Where are you from?
I'm from Connecticut originally, and then Harold is from North Carolina, but we both went to Boston College, so that's where we met.
Okay, so how'd you meet you guys? Obviously Boston College, but like I got to hear the story.
It's really not that interesting. I don't know. I when I went to school, I needed money. I mean, I just had to work, and I had to do work study in order to pay for school. So I worked for the football team in their video department, and it was just like one of the few things that was available. It was a very male dominated.
Oh, for sure.
It's like all my peers were male, but it was fun. Honestly, like I learned a lot about editing and the behind the scenes part of football. But I had met some of the guys on the team just like by traveling with them with away games and other things. And then I think I met Harold at a party. But
yeah, like, I mean, college sounds about right.
It's so funny. It was at like, we didn't have sororities or fraternities or anything. So it was always like athletes that threw parties. And there was a basketball house. And Harold was there. And he had like a wife beater on. And he has a big chest tattoo. And I'm like, no, that's just not it. It's not it. We won't be doing that. Like, we don't need to broadcast the chest all over. So I was just like, wow, okay, this is the type of guy right now. So we didn't really talk at all. I actually tried to set him up with my roommate at the time. That didn't obviously work.
No, that didn't pan out.
When I decided to stay over the summer, because I needed to work, and I had 3 jobs. I worked for the Cheesecake Factory, I worked at a tanning salon, and I worked for Residential Life. But either way, as Residential Life,
so you're right. You do not sleep. It is not in your DNA to take a break. Obviously, you just reaffirmed it right there.
Exactly. So with Residential Life, when football was obviously staying on campus, I would have to get them set up in their rooms and everything. And Harold had decided to stay all summer because he felt like if he went back to North Carolina, he'd get distracted.
Yeah.
And very few people are there full time over the summer. So we just kind of like started to hang out in a small group. And then it slowly dwindled to just me and him. And he would come visit me and have these overnight shifts that were like 8:30 p.m. To like 1:30 a.m. or something. And he would come and he would like bring me dinner, and he would walk the halls with me. Who is this man?
Right. Right. Because that's not very common these days. Chivalry is kind of dying.
And the craziest story is there was one time when I was at the tanning salon, and this was at least 2 miles from campus. And this man grabbed Chipotle, took a bicycle, rode the bicycle, but the bicycle broke. So like the spokes on the wheel came off completely. So this man had to like drag a broken bicycle and brought me dinner at work. And then he was like, so the bike broke. So do you think I could just hang out here until your shift is done so you can drive me back to campus with you?
That's dedication. He was working hard.
Yes.
He was putting the time in.
He really was. And then, the rest is history. I mean, we just spent the whole summer together, and then we've been together ever since.
Okay, but see, when I think of an athlete, I feel like a lot of athletes these days have been coddled their entire lives. I mean, oh, they have their meals prepped for them. They're driven everywhere. They need extra sleep. They get it. They need massage. That story right there kind of debunks everything I imagine as an athlete growing up, because you have a guy riding a bike, being your personal Uber, you like cooking your meals. I mean, not your tradition. He was actually working for it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you can tell your kids he had to work for it.
He did.
Literally.
Very sweet, very sweet. And I don't know, just it was something that you don't expect, which I mean, people always say that's like the best case scenario when you're
for
not
sure.
looking for it. Like I was so focused on working and taking my summer classes, and I was just like, I just don't need this. I mean, I've had
it's not the right time.
Yeah, I had a longer relationship that went from high school into college. When that fizzled out, I was like, oh, it's just, it's my time to just focus on myself.
Right.
And then he came along and I was like, oh, well, looks like I'm set for the rest of my life. I mean, he just wanted, like, we just fit so perfectly. Didn't expect it to happen. And he definitely didn't either. He was in the same situation where he had a high school girlfriend that came into college and it just fizzled over time. And he just wasn't really, he was so focused on football. So it was just like, it was God's
Don't
timing.
they? Yeah, but don't they say like all those good things happen when you're least expecting it? I feel like if you're out there constantly looking for it, you get so wrapped up in all these moments that you're never able to kind of sit back and enjoy and get to learn someone. So it sounds like it was very organic, which I feel like in the NFL, like the divorce rate is super high. It's like 85%. But because I think all these people are so roped up on not who these people are inside, but what they are. And so I think if you have a good foundation like you guys do, it was not overnight, it was gradual over time. I feel like that sets a great foundation for down the road, because face it, the NFL life is super hard. I mean, I know it's got the glitz and glam, but it's not easy.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people miss that part, and they see all the glitz and glam and they don't see all the behind the scenes. And I think it really helped that we met before he was in the NFL, or before that was even like
on his radar.
The conversation that he wanted, it didn't come into reality yet. Like it wasn't something that was super plausible yet. And I think that helped. I mean, he always says that he would have massive trust issues if he was single, like in the NFL, trying to find somebody, because he would never know what that woman's intentions are.
Right.
We feel very blessed that we were able to find each other when we did, because we feel like the stars really aligned for that time in our life. And obviously there's been challenges, but we've been able to figure out how to grow together and not let that NFL lifestyle tear what we have apart.
And I think if you can work through, I mean, my first year with Nick, and by the way, you said this about the big tattoo and white beater. When I met Nick, he was bald with an earring, a diamond stud in his ear. And our first date, he picked me up in a black turtleneck. And I remember I had just moved back. I was about to move into a new apartment. And so I was at my parents' house for the weekend. So for our first date, he literally had to drive to my parents' house and pick me up and meet my parents that way. And I remember my mom is just like me. We're both very loud. I say she's nosy, but she never would go read anything or get in my business, but she was very curious. And so she's looking out the window when he pulls up. She goes, Julianne, he's wearing a black turtleneck and he's got a big earring and he's bald. I'm like, not exactly what I envisioned. However, you can never plan things, if it's meant to be, it's going to work out no matter what they're wearing. So that first year was tough. He had a misdiagnosed injury from the Cowboys training staff. We ended up going to get a second opinion and confirmed what we had expected, that he had torn his labrum. And so he had to go have this emergency surgery that's got an 8-month recovery. He got 2 months. And then the rest of the year was a mess. I feel for him. He should not have been kicking. He was not healed, but he had to kick every game and was missing consistently, which is not my husband. So it was a very challenging year, but I'm pretty sure because we had that year from the very beginning, we were able to tackle anything down the road 17 years later. So
when we were in that first summer to a very similar experience in terms of he's always had some issues with his knees and some meniscus things when he went in from the end of high school into college. And he had to have a surgery, and he was just so upset about it. And it was only a month and a half into us really dating. So it was our first real trial where it's not kind to me in that time, mostly because of the painkillers afterwards. And he was just so upset this was going to set him back and everything. And I remember his mom and his sister came for a visit, and they drove all the way from North Carolina to Boston. And I was like, yeah, it's been tough. Like, and this was like the first time I had met his mom or anything too. And she's like, just, this isn't his personality. This is just like a phase. Like, you know, he's really hard on himself. This is a tough time. Like, just stick with him and like, it'll be worth it. And I think that helped a lot because I think it also prepped us for when he tore his ACL, because that was just so tragic to be in the NFL and to like just have a new deal. And then you're out the entire season following. We thought it was going to have a lot of negativity like from the media and the fans. And thankfully that was a more positive experience, which I think helped the mental part of it for him. But either way, I mean, an ACL is a massive injury. And
it's a huge recovery.
Oh my gosh, it was just so long and grueling. So that definitely helped because I knew mentally where he would be at, and it would probably be exacerbated from our first trial when we first met. But it definitely helped to prep me to be like, okay, I have to have a lot of grace in this situation because I know it's going to be really tough on him.
I think you hit the hammer with the nail right there. Is, you know your husband. I know my husband. I know what an amazing guy he is. I know a hands-on dad. He's just positive. He's very uplifting. However, you know, these guys, they've dedicated so much time and effort into this craft that when there is a huge hurdle for them to overcome, I think it just takes so much out of them that there are times when they're not the type of person that we have known and grown to love. And so I think grace, like you said, is the biggest thing, like having that grace and giving them the ability to have those moments. Because let's face it, Nick's gone 6 months. I have moments too where I'm literally about to have a nervous breakdown. I'm like, how am I going to do this all? They hold it together so much of the time with all that pressure. I think they need that time. So I think it's the wives, the women, the families that can literally be there and burden that make it down the road, because I've been there. It's tough. There's a challenge on the whole family.
Yeah, it is definitely. But I think that having kids too brings this light to the situation where like there's just so much joy in our kids, and I feel like it really helped with his ACL specifically, just to like really get him through it, because we tried to really focus on the silver lining. Is like we had so much more family time that we don't usually get, especially during it. So I mean, our kids have probably the biggest impact on how he did mentally, because they're just so much fun.
Well, speaking of kids, so you have 2 boys.
I do.
And you're about to have a third boy or girl?
Girl this time.
Girl. Well, that's super exciting. Was this planned, or is this one of those surprise when the team's not winning kind of things?
No,
I've had one of those.
No, I don't do that. Okay. Like, I'm a planner, so there is no surprise baby happening here.
Yeah.
So we always thought that we would just have 2, and Harold always wanted boys. So it just worked out really well that we had 2 boys in a row, and we're like, oh, we're done. We're so young. It'll be easy. And then I would say about a year and a half ago, I started getting this itch, like, oh, maybe I didn't enjoy it enough, and like maybe we need more. Like, but our youngest son has a lot of food allergies, has really bad skin, eczema, and it took a long time for me to like really figure out how to help him be comfortable.
Sure.
And I think that deterred us for a long time, because we were like, oh my gosh, Ollie, he goes through so much. We don't want to, you know, take away from our family by putting another baby in. So now that Ollie is in a really good place, we were like, okay, maybe. And then I had found peace with the idea that he didn't really want another one. And then the off season rolled around, and because I've been teaching, our schedules were flipped. So I would teach in the afternoon, but he would go and do all of his field work and rehab in the morning. So we didn't really see each other a lot until the end of a school day. And he was like, I've been spending so much time by myself, and I've been really thinking about it. And I think I do want another baby, because like, why would we not want to add like more to our family? And I was like, oh, okay, now I have to rewrap my mind around this.
Right, reprocess everything.
Job now, and like I'm really like, the kids are older and I feel good and I feel like I'm like myself, because you do lose yourself when you have a new baby and like that transition.
Absolutely.
So I had to like prep myself for that, but then I was like, okay, let's do it. And the craziest thing is, because I have an IUD in, not now, before.
You did, yeah.
The day I got my IUD out is my conception day for this baby.
Oh, your body was ready. It was like, let's go.
Well, God said that was meant to be, because, oh my goodness, like I went to the doctor's appointment and my daughter's like, why are you here?
Right.
Like,
I just saw you.
soon. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. But yep, day one, here we are. And then
Here we go.
Yeah, and now she's due in January, and it's very exciting. I'm excited to have a girl. We were very shocked when we found out it was a girl because, I don't know, Harold didn't think he could make girls, even though it's a 50-50 shot. We just like be boy parents. I think
every player's like, oh, I just shot for a boy. That's a boy right there. And
yeah,
you're
like, I don't know. We just felt like we were meant to have boys. And it does give me a level of fear to have a girl because I know when I was like in the teenage years, I was just not great to my mom. And like, I don't know. Just boys just feel easier to me. I don't know.
Hey, I have 3 boys and 1 girl. I will say this though. My little girl is the perfect combination of both tough as nails. Like she once punched her brother's friend and made him vomit because he said something to her. So she did not get in trouble that one time because I want her to feel comfortable with protecting herself if she ever needed to. But then again, like yesterday during the game, we're all watching and she's putting gel nails. She's painting her nails. She's putting on makeup. She's watching the game, coming downstairs. So it's like the perfect combination. And I love that she has older brothers because I know no one's going to mess with her. You have that same situation. She's got brothers. She's got like a tough, like manly guy for a dad, but yet she's got like a super cool mom too. You're going to be great. You're going to be great. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what she looks like because I think it's different. Like Harold and I look very different. You know what I mean? Like some people look similar to their spouses. You can have like a prediction of what their kids will look like, but Harold and I are very different and our boys look different from each other. So I keep wondering, is she going to favor one of our kids or be like a totally different being of her own? I don't know, but yeah, I'm excited. It's the second trimester like bliss right now, but I know it's coming.
Well, so when I asked you to come on this show, it's because you, from the moment I met you, you super intrigued me. I remember sitting down at that luncheon. We were talking about books, and I asked you, I was like, "Oh, what do you do?" Because I was trying to make conversation. I didn't expect for you to come off and like name like 10 different things and blow my mind. And so I remember I knew who you were based on you had this amazing, very well known clothing line now called Dani Design. And you are all over pro sports, all the wives. I actually own a few of your things. How did this come about? Because you're super talented. I don't think anyone could just pick up and do what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like I always have had a creative side to me, but being a mom, like we had Grayson really young. And we had already had him like as Harold was being drafted and coming into the league. And it just made more sense for me to be home with him because he was so young and Harold's career was demanding. But I was like, I'm going to go crazy. Like
just sitting around. Right.
Like some people thrive in just being home and doing that. But for me, I just needed something else. And when I was starting to look up things to like just buy to support Harold, I was like, oh my gosh, like 1, it's very expensive. And 2, I was like, honestly, I think I could do this and maybe do it better. So
awesome. I
started experimenting with some stuff. And honestly, a lot of inspiration came from other friends on the team and like kind of what they wanted to do to support their husband. And they gave me a lot of ideas and we would kind of work together and collaborate and create some cool stuff. And then eventually it just kind of like kept growing and growing. And I was writing everything in a notebook and I was like, I'm losing track of everything. Like, I need to streamline this in some way. So I spent one of the off seasons building a site, really trying to make it as user friendly. Like everything has been done by me alone, which is really
is crazy. Which is crazy.
Yeah. I haven't forced any help for anything. And I'm just like grateful. I've had some like higher profile people that have posted me on their page. It brings in traction to the site and brings in traction to my Instagram. I definitely put more time and energy into it before I started teaching. Now it's kind of runs itself in a way, and I can kind of open and close it when I want. And it fulfills that creative aspect, but I also don't want to overwhelm myself at this stage in my life because I am pregnant. I am teaching. My husband is in the busiest time of year. I do have 2 other kids. But it definitely, itches that creative flow that I've always wanted to do. And I really love it. And I feel like I've always gotten really positive feedback. I'd say like 99% of the feedback has always been positive. So, I mean, I can't ask for more.
I love going onto your Instagram and swiping and getting inspiration for what I want you to make me. So what has been like your biggest order ever? Because I know you do these drops But I remember reading something like, hey, if you have a mass order, so what's been like the most challenging or biggest order you've ever had to do?
So sometimes I'll have like group orders if a team, like a bunch of women from a team want to do something. I will do something exclusively for them. But I did have Landon, I think her last name is Hutchison. She's like a Nashville influencer. It's living with Landon. And she has a very dedicated following. So when she had reached out to me asking me to make something to support her son who plays high school football, I was like, sure, of course. And she had posted all about it. I had an influx of people. And I was like, you know what? Let me open up a drop and just see what it could do.
Sure.
And it was too much for me. Oh my gosh. I was like, I got to a certain point and I was like, okay, this is 3 times the size of any drop I've ever wanted to do or ever done. That month, I did have to recruit my mom to come in and help me organize stock and everything.
That's what moms are for. That's what moms are for.
I have like no idea how to navigate this right now. I will never do that again. But it was a massive order and I'm very grateful for her because following has been super consistent in terms of ordering over time. But yeah, I will never just test the waters like that again and just see what I can do because
let's wing it. I'm going to just wing it. I'm just going to.
Every waking moment I had free, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to at least complete one order. I have to do this. And it's just too much. That takes the joy out of it. So I was like, I don't want to do that to myself again.
No. Okay, well, you keep on mentioning teaching because that was the other thing I remember sitting at the lunch being like, I just remember going like, excuse me? I mean, so like I said, by day, we're creative entrepreneur designer. And by afternoon, you are a 7th and 8th grade math teacher and an 11th grade personal finance teacher.
Yes. Last year, I just taught 11th grade in the fall. So when we met, I was only doing 11th grade. They had posted, so it's actually the same school that my kids go to. So it's a Christian school.
Oh, that's nice.
Preschool through 12th grade. And they had said that they were like looking for people. And I was like, you know what? Like I've always been very good at working with not even the younger kids. I wanted to work with those older kids at middle school and high school age. But I've always kind of been interested in like what teaching could bring and just really having an impact on that younger generation and helping to mold them. Because I remember some really key teachers in my life that made an impact in the trajectory of my life. So I went in and I was like, hey, like if I am right for this, great. If I'm not, totally okay too. I mean, I'm not going to pull my kids from the school or anything. Like I just want to help if I can. And they really wanted me to be there full time. And I was like, I think my husband would actually lose his mind if I did. So let's not do that. Maybe we just kind of test the waters and see. So there was a personal finance position open. And I was like, well, I can do that. I have a very math and science brain. I haven't taught before. I did some ESL teaching online with children that were in China when my youngest was young. So that way I could like do it between like 4 and 7 a.m.
Right.
I always have to do something.
100 miles per hour. I can relate. I get it.
A little bit of experience, but not ever in an actual school environment. So I did that. And then they were like, oh, we need somebody to do the advisory, which is like a study hall for the other half of the 11th grade. I was like, okay, like I just have to supervise study hall. I can do that. And my 11th graders just like really changed the game for me. It's such a great group of students that I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I have amazing relationships with them. They still come to my classroom this year and they're like, hi, Miss Landry. And they catch me up on their lives, even though I don't get to teach them as seniors. But then in the spring, they're like, we really want to try a non-accelerated math program in our middle school because math is not for everybody. So there's a group of kids that are really struggling. Like, how would you feel about trying to take this on and just taking it at a slower pace, really diving into the material? And I was like, okay.
Because I love that the school is doing that though, because many schools just slough it off and just, sorry, not much I can say. So I love that your school is actually stepping in and seeing that there's an issue that needs to be resolved. So props to them and for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's just take one of the middle school classes and like see how it happens. So we took the 7th grade and I have a group of students and I did that in the last semester. And that was a little bit tougher. I think middle school is just like a really tumultuous age. So it was a big classroom management difference for me because I didn't really have a lot of classroom management I had to worry about it with my juniors because they're just so close to being like adults that you can feel that relationship is different than 12 and 13-year-olds.
Oh, I have sixth grade twins, and this is like sixth grade, seventh grade. Hormones are changing, personalities are changing. They're constantly keeping you on your toes. I can imagine you probably have some pretty crazy stories that you probably can't share in here anyways, because I've heard crazy stories lately. I'm like, what? But again, I never a dull moment, right? Keeps your life very entertained and engaged, right?
Definitely.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And it's just been a really great experience. And then this year I chose to do them as eighth graders and take in a new group of incoming seventh. And then because I won't be there in the spring because my baby's due in January, I am doing both sets of juniors in the fall. So I have 4 classes this semester, which is a lot. So I teach pretty much from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock with a little lunch break in there. So it allows me to come home for a little bit and like do the laundry or do some dishes, or if I have a quick appointment or something. And everybody I work with is incredible. So they're very accommodating if I, have a doctor's appointment that runs over and somebody needs to pick up a class or something like that. But yeah, it's been really great. And I want to be involved as much as I can going forward, even if I won't be in the classroom.
Well, see, I want you to debunk something. You're actually doing it by being on here. So I just want to get your take. So I think a lot of people assume that NFL wives, pro wives, we spend our day laying by the pool, and our husbands expect for us to just be there just when they get home with like a meal waiting for them, like a nice back massage. But that's not the case for myself, nor yourself, nor most of the women I know. So I kind of want to hear how you think Harold, like how he feels about you working. Like, what is his mindset with you having your own career and working at school and just being busy all the time? Does he support you? What's his mindset, do you think?
I think there's always a level of support for sure. He wants me to be happy. He wants me to be fulfilled and do these things. He's seen me in a phase where I wasn't, and he was like, this is not great. And this is not good because you're not the best version of yourself. I think right now is a little bit much. Like, I think I'm doing too much right now. And I'm really just trying to take advantage of all of it because I know come January, I'm going to be home and I'm going to be back into the throes of like having a little baby. And he understands that too. And I still managed to get everything done.
I'm sure you do.
On the exact same day that he asked to get done. So, there's like a little grace period in there where I get stuff done. But he has definitely taken up more roles too. And I think the further you get into the league, you have this, you always want to grind and be better, but you have like a little bit more comfort where he like knows what to expect. It's not so unexpected every day. And like, he knows what he needs to do. So it allows his mind to be a little bit more free for things that I need or things that the kids need. Like our oldest is in tackle football, so he really likes to be involved in that kind of stuff. But yeah, he will come to my classroom every now and again, and my kids love it. They can take a picture.
I'm sure.
Or he'll come eat his lunch on campus or something with me. So like, he really appreciates that I love it. But I think that I think he would prefer it to be after football was over, because it's hard, like when you have young kids, like both grind and do stuff simultaneously.
Okay, I want your take, because it's not a controversial topic because I'm in Texas, but just your child playing tackle football. So was that something that you both are on the same page about? Did he always envision having a son that played tackle football, or was that something that just was like a natural progression?
So he started out with flag, and he's 7. He turned 7 in June. Our youngest is going to be 5 in December, and he's not really into anything yet. No, into sports. But we started Grayson in sports really young because he's like our firstborn, and we're like,
let's go.
Activities. And he started flag his kindergarten year, and it was like fine. Like, he did okay. But then in first grade, he excelled, and he was like definitely in the top 5 kids in the whole like league that we have in our town. And we were like, wow, like you really love this. And he will watch all the stats on YouTube Kids, and he loves watching the highlights, and he can recollect all this stuff. I'm like, can we put this energy into you learning to read? Because that would help me a lot more than all of the stats that you're just telling me that you hear.
He's going to be great at math, though. I guarantee you he's going to be great at math. Yes. The stats, that's why boys are great at math. And I attribute it to starting in first grade grain tracking. Like 28 points means 4 touchdowns. So yeah, at least you got that.
He loves math. It probably gets that from me. But he loves football. He loves his dad and he loves all that stuff. I wasn't super pro starting tackle this young. A lot of our other parent friends with kids that are also really good at flag, they kept saying, hey, like, Grayson's got to do tackle, and because tackle is in the fall in our town and then flag is in the spring. And I was like, I just want to wait till he's a little bit older, like he could be more in control of his body. More so I was worried about other kids, like not knowing the right things to do.
Right. Now how to tackle properly.
Yeah. And they're like, no, we teach them all those things. And with the equipment, they're pretty slow at this age anyways, because they're adjusting to having everything on their body. It's not like full speed like with football, and they just have flags on the side. And I lost the battle. I did, because obviously he started playing and Harold was like, no, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
Oh, it's his dream. Yeah, I'm sure it's a dream of his. My son's playing. He's dominating. I got to watch. Yeah.
And he's slower in tackle for sure. I mean, most of these kids played together last year on his team. So this is his first year. So this is like his introduction year, and they've all played together. So he gets a little bit more hesitant about like being tackled or going after the ball or anything like that. So it's fine though. And it really is safe. I will be honest. Like the contact that they're making is at such a short distance that I don't worry about him getting hurt or him hurting somebody else. And the coaches are incredible that they really do emphasize like correct form on how to do stuff.
That's important.
It's actually great. And now that I'm thinking in hindsight about it, it's probably better we put him in younger before they're super huge, because then he is actually learning the fundamentals when he's smaller and less able to get hurt and more limber. Versus if I put him in middle school, and these kids may have started from like at 6, 7, 8, and he has no idea what he's doing at that stage. So I'd rather him figure it out at that younger age.
Well, I think you're kind of in a different situation too, with a husband who plays, who will be there and be able to monitor and watch, being like, no, that is not the right way to do something. Because I think youth sports, the biggest issue is a lot of coaches just want to. I'm from Texas, where we're like football, like country right here, where a lot of coaches emphasize on winning, and so they're not as serious when it comes to like proper form and tackling, or how to tuck your head, or how to hold the ball. And I think that's where a lot of these injuries happen. So I think it's important. Yeah. Just keep the communication. If you're starting young, just make sure you have the right coaches. I think that's big for me, is if my boys ever played, making sure we have coaches like-minded as us, because Nick right now won't let our boys play, only because, like I said, he's been in the league for so long. He's now seeing players that he's known who have retired that are now having the mental illness, that are having the long-term side effects. And so he sees it, and I think it's amplified for him. And so I think he just puts our kids in that situation. But he's also told them, he's like, look, our kids play all these sports. It's like, if you want to play in high school, football is a sport where you can, if you're athletic and play other sports, you could pick it up down the road and still play. So I'm from a family of football players too. So I'm like, are you sure, Nick? Are you sure, Nick? Are you sure, Nick? And he's like, just wait. So I imagine at some point I will lose the battle as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that if he's really interested in it, I just want to let him do it at this point, because I don't want to stifle that. But I also tell him, I'm like, school comes first. If we're not up on the school stuff, I cannot commit to this, because tackle football is 4 days a week for us. So it's a lot. It's
wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
And with same thing, I'm never going to pressure him to do something. Like our youngest, I'm like, you might just work at Publix. I don't know.
You be the best bagger ever. Let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think maybe because he's our firstborn and we're just like, do everything you want. But then our second, it's just different. And then I just want to let them do whatever they want. Like our youngest said he wants to start soccer. I know nothing about soccer. I know you guys are big into soccer.
Yeah, let's go. I'll teach him. I'll coach him from Zoom. Let's go.
Exactly. So I don't know. I'm just trying to let them kind of
navigate their own way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap things up. However, I just like to hear, the NFL's got crazy stories. Wives have crazy stories. I know I've got a ton. I just want to hear, just to wrap things up, what is your craziest NFL experience so far in your 7 years with the Titans? I know I put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I mean, one thing that came to mind, it's not even necessarily NFL, but as soon as we were drafted, so we got drafted obviously in that April timeframe. We got married in July. So we got married in Barbados. We just did destination with our family.
Sweet.
And the villa we were staying at, I guess there was a catamaran boat we had taken earlier in the trip. And I guess the next day they had Titans fans and they were talking about us with the crew. They took the catamaran to we were beachfront, to where our villa was. They swam from their boat to the shore and wrote and tighten up in the sand right outside our villa. I was like, in Barbados, like, what are the odds?
What are the odds?
Like, it was the most insane experience. I was like, this is where we're meant to be. Clearly.
That's right. This is a great sign. Everything is going to be great.
Everything's going to be perfect. Yeah. So, yeah, that was just like the craziest thing. But honestly, I don't have any crazy NFL stories because I'm very outside of the world, to be honest. I find my community elsewhere. And it's hard to keep community when women on the team or men on the team, they're all just like coming and going sometimes. And we've just been here consistently for this time.
Right.
So I don't know. Our community is so much stronger elsewhere that I just stay outside of the NFL world a lot. Really, I think Julian can probably attest to this. I try and be very inclusive because when I first came into the league, it was kind of that more segregated, different groups, a little bit cliquey. And I felt myself like trying to be something that I wasn't then. Like when it came to like, I felt like, I needed to have a designer bag now because my husband was in the NFL. And I was like, this really isn't who I am. Like, I'm just not meant for this. And as I became more of the veteran and, you know, some people kind of left and I was like, wow, we could really like have a cool culture change here. Especially with the Titans. I mean, I don't know how other teams are. I don't have experience there. But I was like, why would we have a hierarchy where girlfriends are ranked lower than fiancés, like ranked lower than wives, or that if you've been in the league 10 years, that automatically trumps you being in the league 2 years.
Sure.
Like it felt so silly to me because we all have this common bond where our significant others are in a really demanding career that a lot of people don't understand outside of it. So I was like, we should be leaning on each other. So I think I've always taken that stance of, I want people to feel comfortable. And that's why I always work with the team to be like, hey, let me have the list of all the women so that I can reach out and have a group chat. We have a lovely new person this year.
She's amazing.
Take care of all of that so that
She's so great.
Because I love that that's no longer on my plate. But I always said to her, I was like, hey, when we get new women, send me their number. I'd love to be the first one to reach out just so that they have a friendly face before they come in here. And I'm not really in all the stuff. I don't have time to go to all the events, but like for somebody to just be in a new location and at least have a phone number of somebody who's been here for a while, I think it makes a big difference because I know when I came in that would have been super helpful just to have somebody to lean on. Because there are all these kind of stereotypes and expectations when you come into the league. And I don't know. I don't know I don't think the Titans really fit those. Like when I watch the show WAG, I don't feel like we're like that. Yeah.
No. And welcome to a league of your own where we are your non-glitz and glamour, your everyday natural lives. No, that is the whole reason why we're here today talking about these stories, because WAGs and Real Housewives give all these NFL and pro athlete wives a bad name. And that's just not the reality of all these incredible women out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that you were able to come on and debunk a lot of those myths that I think are out there that people have no idea are not true. You are wonderful. You were one of my first people who I met, and I've texted you very few because, like you said, they come and they go, and this team is very young. And so we may not always agree on the same things, but I think it's important, like you said, to have that camaraderie with one another, be each other's support system. You've been so helpful to me, so I've been super appreciative of that. And so glad I got to have you come on here and just show everyone out there that you can be a wife, you can be a mom, you can be an entrepreneur, a teacher. There's not just one hat that you have to wear. You can do it all. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. This was super fun. I loved it.
Hey, friends, that's a wrap. Thank you, Dani, again for being on the show. I will definitely have you come out again, but hopefully next time we're talking about the Titans' winning record. But until then, in the words of Charles Barkley, the only difference between a good shot and a bad shot is if it goes in or not. So to all my fellow moms and ladies out there, don't be scared to take your shot this week. See you next time on A League of Our Own.